What's going on? Welcome in. It's the Wrestling Matt. Me? I think you know who I am. I'm Matt Camp. Do I have a graphic? I probably do, right? I could just kind of click something and then my name pops up. It is the magic of internet television. Boom. There it is. Hello and welcome in to the Wrestling Mat. Goodness, I am white today. Why is that? Let's put a hand there. I bet I changed colors. This is very finicky. Hello, what's going on? Happy Halloween, nerdy dude. I did not dress up. I don't have any Halloween stuff today. I will be doing Halloween stuff with my wife and daughter on tomorrow and on Saturday. So my costume is saved. I'm going as Sully from Monsters, Inc., because that's what you expect from someone who talks about wrestling as part of his job. Hello, welcome in. Fright Night Dynamite. I will say, hello, welcome in. Before I get to all the plugs and all this stuff, I very much enjoy a, pardon the pun, no pun intended, I should say, campy presentation sometimes of a themed show. The Fright Night Dynamite. I loved, and if you're not on this, I don't know if we're friends. The old Halloween Havoc WCW set was the best. It was the best. It was fun. Wrestling can be fun. This is what I keep getting back to. Wrestling can look too glossy at times. It can be too buttoned up. I was just listening to Click This. Sean Oliver and Kevin Nash were talking about that. They had played this promo of the Iron Sheik way back in the probably WWF days. And, you could tell he was just having fun with Mean Gene. And I know it's not the same way anymore, but there's a looseness and a fun to wrestling that feels like it's almost hard to capture because everybody... And look, I get this. Who expected this tangent to start the show? Not me. You got sponsors. You got shareholders. You got stockholders. You got a lot of people to answer to. You don't want to mess anything up. You don't want to offend people. And a lot of that stuff's got to go through, hey, we got to know what you're going to say or what's the segment going to... And back then it was shoot and go. Now listen, they said some dumb stuff. Dumb stuff. That ages horribly. And I get that too. But I wish there was more of a middle ground of it being loose in wrestling in general, in promos in general. The best can find that. The best are trusted to handle that. And they know what they're doing. But like seeing that Fright Night Dynamite set, I got a good, it put me in the right mood. Just acknowledging, having fun with the holiday a bit. I always appreciated AEW did it, WWE does it. Hey, let's throw out some extra Halloween content. Boogeyman was a staple of the Marriott in the Connecticut region during Halloween week. He basically had a booked room for 2 to 3 nights, locked in every year around this time. And sometimes I'm like, we're doing Boogie. And you'd have fun with Boogie. And I saw they did stuff with him the other day. That kind of stuff is the fun of wrestling. Lean into it. Yesterday, and I feel supremely confident saying that the package that was put together to preview Dynamite that was posted on AEW social media yesterday was approved, laughed at, enjoyed, and very likely suggested by one Tony Khan. Because they took the opening of the 1989 classic movie, Major League, Burn On by Randy Newman, which opens up the movie. Watch it if you haven't yet. Showing the sights of Cleveland as that song plays, splicing in the trials and tribulations of the now former Cleveland Indians. But it's such an iconic song, and it's such a memorable opening sequence to a movie that when I saw it, I think I saw on Renee's Instagram, Renee Paquette, the remarkable Renee Paquette, as Excalibur calls her. I clicked it, and I heard the opening notes of Burn On by Randy Newman. And I said, am I playing this somewhere else? I watched Major League like a week ago. It's a very good comfort movie for me. I like to just kind of have it on sometimes because I know all the lines. I love everything about the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a comedy classic. Go watch it if you haven't. Holy hell, it's 35 years old. I'm just realizing that right now. But I heard the notes and I went, is this on her Instagram? And then I watched and they did a full 2+ minute Dynamite, Fright Night Dynamite preview set to Burn On with images of Cleveland because they were there last night. And I don't know if that plays to everybody, and you know what? I don't care. I thoroughly enjoyed a out-of-nowhere Major League reference. Just a bit outside. Tried the corner and missed. By the way, Bob Uecker, who is the play-by-play man in those movies, still calls games for the Milwaukee Brewers. And those are wrestling facts that you didn't know. Bob Uecker, a WrestleMania alumni, famously got the choke from Andre the Giant back in the day. So there you go. I got it back to wrestling. Bob Uecker, back to wrestling, back to Major League, back to Randy Newman, back to Fright Night Dynamite. The set, interestingly enough, of Fright Night Dynamite being set up and the Halloween stuff days after the actual Halloween Havoc happened. Have you guys ever seen the more recent Halloween Havoc inflatable pumpkin that has the newer WCW logo, the crown ugly thing they did? And then, it popped up somewhere, and WWE had to, buy it from random people. It's random. But the pumpkin's the best, right? I mean, it's just a good set. So they set the stage, and they did Halloween stuff, and they did Major League stuff. And it all, of course, is still leaning back to Moxley. And we're going to talk about Moxley today because Jon Moxley didn't really open the show last night. We're going to get into that. The Private Party push is on. They are the new AEW Tag Team Champions. I want to get into that. First of all, congratulations to them. Great moment for them. We'll talk about more of what's going to come as a result of that and what the hell was going on with the Young Bucks where they lost and then they left. Might be something to that. Orange Cassidy, as we said, Mox didn't really open the show, and Mox is now set for Full Gear next month. We'll talk about that. As many of us expected. But the promo OC cut was something that stood out more because of who he's been the last 5 years. Also, finding out that the attack, which I only briefly mentioned on yesterday's show, the attack, I put that in quotes, on Rhea Ripley by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at NXT was done to cover what is apparently a broken orbital bone for Rhea Ripley that will put her out for, quote, some time. She put up the x-rays, and according to Fightful, they are legit. I will tell you, I have broken one bone in my entire life, and it was my orbital bone. Orbital bone. That's not a fun word to say. Orbital bone. I broke it 16 years ago in a complete freak accident. Right here. Got some double vision off it. I had a big black eye, and I won't show you a picture of this. I had a black eye for quite some time, and then it turned red. I had a red eyeball, similar to what happened to Christopher Daniels, for a few weeks. So it is a gnarly injury. Depending on, the extent of it. Now, I believe Rhea walked into NXT with the injury. So she took pictures and did the segment backstage. So I don't know how bad it is, but it is something that you have to let heal, and something that you have to worry about. At least I did, was the muscle of the eye slipping into where the fracture is. If it's big enough, and that can cause double vision. So, best wishes to Rhea. Unfortunate injury luck once again this year, and that's unfortunate. Nerd Dude says, I have a question. Where can you get my mug? This mug, it literally just says my name on it. Yeah. This is probably a Home Goods. Shout out to my mom. Or TJ Maxx thing or something. TJ Maxx, come on board. Wrestling Matt would love to have you. By the way, we'd also love to have you here if you could become a member, because right now the only people that get to watch this live at 11 a.m. Eastern every weekday are Matt members. Nerdy Dude is in here now. B-May's in here now. If you want to be able to watch this show live, plus so many other perks, head over to thewrestlingmatshow.com. Become a member. You can subscribe for free to the YouTube channel, just like you can and should subscribe for free to our podcast, wherever you get them, on the Believe Network. But wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen to them, please subscribe to the Wrestling Mat, because these episodes also go up in podcast form each and every day. But the mug it's just got my name on it. Listen, here's the other thing. If you go to prowrestlingtees.com/thewrestlingmat and you get a shirt like Nerdy Dude and others have, the more of those we sell, the more we can offer at prowrestlingtees.com/thewrestlingmat. Perhaps a mug one day. Perhaps a Wrestling Mat mug. I would love that to be in my hand. Full of coffee from Stumptown. That's what I've been drinking lately. Stumptown's good. Coffee suggestions, leave them below in the comments. But as we step into Halloween here, and happy Halloween, hope everybody has a good Halloween and enjoys your trick-or-treating and all that stuff. And it is a day when your Instagram and Twitter feeds tend to get a bit clogged with retweets of wrestlers reposting people who have dressed up as them. Little pro tip for those of you on Twitter who don't want to see people retweet all the compliments they get. Go to the top corner and turn off retweets. Especially if you follow a lot of wrestlers who retweet their compliments. It will clear up your timeline like that. Oh, Stumptown. I connected with City and Local. Nice. Portland's finest. Hello, City and Local. Good to have you north of the border. Nerdy Dude says the German coffee is pretty good. I am so pro coffee. Didn't touch the stuff for like the first 30-something years of my life. And now, in an effort to be a little healthier, cutting out the energy drinks. Not that I wasn't drinking coffee already during that time, but leaning more on black coffee. As you hear that, I apologize. So, obviously, for those members watching live, get your questions in. If you're watching on the later viewing, because it hits at 5 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel for everybody else if you're not a member, as it does on the podcast feed, get those super chats in. We will answer them here on the show after the fact. But if you have questions and you are in the live chat right now, hit me up about the shows last night, whatever you want to get into. You're a member. You're here live. You get that access. I will be doing a Crown Jewel preview episode tomorrow. That will be pre-taped because I have to travel for a few hours tomorrow, so that will be pre-taped. But you will get my full Crown Jewel preview heading into the next WWE PLE coming up on Saturday. But let's get into Dynamite. Let's get into how, I don't think I even mentioned this yet, Bobby Lashley. Large Bob, Big Bob is all elite. To no one's surprise. And what we saw last night was the third match of Shelton Benjamin's AEW career and his first loss, taking on Swerve Strickland, who we haven't seen in the ring in quite some time. Swerve trying to, get back, get right. Now, he hasn't wrestled since the cage match with Hangman. Saw him at Wrestle Dream, but this was Swerve getting back in there. And they had a very good match. I don't know if it had all of the heat you would want. I don't know if it had enough of the juice that you might want. I will say that I thought the crowd was very good all night long. I think they were there when certain moments happened. I thought they were there for Swerve's entrance. I think that is a very telling part. Sometimes it's good if you want an assessment of where things are at. And I'm not saying this is the end-all, be-all. Hit mute when somebody walks out. You want to see where they're at? It's two exercises, really. Hit mute when somebody walks out. And watch the crowd. And see who's sitting, and see who's standing, and see who's into it. Then do it again. But close your eyes and listen. Does it feel like the vibe shifts? Does it feel like the atmosphere shifts? Because you could tell when people are in and they're not in. Swerve has gone beyond the dance, the na-na dance. And obviously it's important to have an entrance that people can get into, and he has that. But he follows it up, and there's a cool factor. I did notice last night, and Swerve keeps it moving. He doesn't stick with one look. He's worn different looks. He had, the AEW championship shirt he wore out for the match against Bryan, and he's wore the fur coats, and he's, last night was a little bit more of a dressed down Swerve, more of a simple jacket. And I'm not trying to read into that too much, but it didn't seem like he was as over the top. He was also high-fiving a little bit more, which is not what I expected from Swerve, but he's the babyface, and they have a good match. And Swerve wins. Not a total surprise, and MVP makes the call. And something happened with the lights. I don't know if it was a mix-up in production, and then with very strong theme music, Bobby Lashley comes out. And they get the face-off with Swerve, and they get the beatdown. And those guys, much like they did when they were pushed and presented correctly as the Hurt Business, looked good again last night. Now, I'm not going to analyze anything else. Not, well, we've seen this before. Not, how does this fit in AEW? I'm not talking about any of that yet, and we will get to that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you feel about Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, MVP, back together, Hurt Syndicate business, whatever you want to call it. Just those three guys together. How did that come off to you? Are you excited about that? What I want to discuss before we get into the bigger picture is just if I saw those guys and I saw the angle to close the show in a vacuum, not comparing it to anything else, not comparing it to what they've done, not comparing it to the many other heel groups in AEW, I thought they looked damn good. I thought they came across as dangerous. I thought they came across as badasses. I thought when Hurt Business and WWE, even though it was in the Thunderdome era and the pandemic, when those guys hit, they hit well. They look legit. It's very obvious why people wanted that group to come back. That group back together with fans, we should have got. That's a miss. And I've heard Bobby's interviews and talking about Omos and talking about Gunther and talking about Cross. I'm not saying all his ideas were good, but for some reason, they didn't want to put those guys back together. They didn't want to present that group, even though they got over in front of nobody. They came together during the pandemic, basically, and didn't get to come out of the pandemic back together, and that should have happened. So you know what? I'm not a huge fan of putting acts back together that were somewhere else all the time. It's got to be done correctly. But we didn't get enough of the original Hurt Business the first time around. So I am happy that we are getting it in front of fans this time around with a chance to see it through, with a chance to see if this group can be money-making, if this group can be an attraction, if this group can add to AEW. Because they're unlike anything AEW has right now in terms of their backgrounds, where they come from, how they're presented. But now they get a chance to do this in front of a crowd. My only issue, because I thought everything they executed last night was a strong start. The issue to deal with is that at the same time you are creating this heel hurt business, you have Jon Moxley's crew doing what they're doing. And that's unfortunate timing. Now, the key to me to Moxley's group is the unpredictable nature. And you have to keep that up. So far, they have targeted baby faces. They haven't gone after heels. And that's by design. That's why I wrote an article about the 5 baby faces that Jon Moxley needs to face in his reign. There can be no question that they are the bad guys. And I would continue to go in that direction. I don't know if he was instructed to say this. I don't know if he was just using wrestling logic. But Daddy Magic, who was stepping in for Taz as one of the color commentators, just kind of spits out, where's Moxley's group now? And I immediately went back to Hurt Business confronting Retribution. The only time Retribution came off as interesting was when Hurt Business walked down that aisle. We've talked about it on this show many times before. Undoing the cufflinks, taking off the jacket. The 4 of us are going to go beat up 10 people. Maybe there is that face-off way down the line of the Hurt Syndicate, whatever they're going to call them, and Moxley's group. Also, I want to ask something to everybody, and God, I feel like this is like WWE brain that permeated into me. What do we call Moxley's group? Because I don't think they're supposed to be called the Blackpool Combat Club anymore. He said New Paradigm. He said the Greater Good. Do they need a name at all? And once again, that's where like my WWE branded brain comes in. Branded, literally. Do they need a name? Or is that too much branding and is that too much glossy pro wrestling? Jon Moxley's group needs a name. They're the Greater Good. They're the New Paradigm. What? And I ask this for 2 reasons. Number one, every time I write about them, I don't know what to say. Moxley and crew, Moxley and company. So there is a tiny bit of selfishness of like, can we call him something? But then I also wonder, is that too sports entertainment-y? Well, we got to give him some name. We got to call him something. I'm asking, do they need a name? Should they have a name? Typically, it's pro wrestling. Whether I'm calling it sports entertainment, everybody's, factions have names. I just kind of want it, I'd almost want it here. Here's what I would pitch. I would pitch it as something that Tony Schiavone just starts calling them. I've always felt there is something to more of a natural naming process. Sometimes you see a finisher and, we're told he calls that the Stone Cold Stunner or whatever, or it becoming naturally out of an announcer's mouth. Is it Tony Schiavone trying to encapsulate them in some kind of term or whatever, and then, Moxley picks up, and I heard Tony Schiavone call us the Greater Good. You know what? We are the Greater Good. I like that, Tony. You said it as a negative. But that's exactly what AEW needs. They need the greater good. Something to that effect, where it's a little bit more organic. You know, DX got called degenerates. They didn't name them, and then they went, hey, we kind of like that. We're going to go with DX. So I wonder if that would be useful. Nerdy Dude says, I heard something like Death Riot Raiders or something like that. Matt called them Moxley Crew, like the Motley Crew. Death Rider is Moxley's nickname in New Japan. And he has started to use, instead of Wild Thing, shout out to Major League once again. Funny that they did, after all that, they don't use it last night, nor should have they. Should they have. But Death Rider is his thing in New Japan, and the music they came out to last night is his New Japan music. Did you have an issue, throw this out there, with them coming out kind of normally last night? With music? Through the backstage? Like, I was surprised they were backstage. Because last week, they opened the show with everybody that has wants to battle Moxley and crew standing outside waiting for him. Whereas last night, they just walk in the building backstage. Have they now scared everybody off enough? Like, I could totally see that they feel confident enough to just say, screw you, we're walking around. What are you going to do about it? But there was nobody around. They're just walking around backstage last night. Now, that happened after the start of the show. And the start of the show was another pre-taped Moxley promo, which has been the standard for the last month or so, starting the show. I've talked about how much I like it, how well they're done. The one last week in Salt Lake, you could see they were, on the salt plains or whatever the hell they're called. Looked awesome. And led to all the baby faces standing out there last week. And then they are showing something pre-taped last night, and you hear a voice say, no, stop that, turn it off, and it's Orange Cassidy. And they stop the tape, and he walks out. No music, which I liked. Still in orange gear. And he goes out there, and he cuts an angry main event-ish level, whatever you want to call it, babyface promo about being the hero and about stepping up because of what they did to his friends. And what they did to Chuck Taylor. And now, I'm not a leader, but I got to step up and do this. And Moxley, the way I'm going to do this is to challenge you for the AEW World Championship. And it was a pretty straightforward, correctly toned promo by Orange Cassidy that for a typical babyface would be cool. A good fired up promo. He's fighting for, his friends. He's the babyface. He's fighting for good. He's coming to take him out. But I thought it resonated a bit more because we never hear Orange Cassidy speak in such a way. And that is the beauty of him being selective with when he talks and how he talks and the media he does. And there's a protection of his words. They mean something. Like anything. If you don't do it that often, especially in wrestling, when you bring it out, whether it's a big move or certain gear or music or how you say something in a promo, if you don't do it all the time, when you do it and people aren't expecting it, it means more. And maybe people were expecting Orange to cut a serious promo last night. He was promoted as such, but he delivered it very well. He delivered as a man who was pushed too far. the chillest guy in the company, has no more chill. And when you don't see Orange like that, just that little turn of the knob in his character, while not all that crazy or all that unbelievable, it's still so much different for him, and it makes you pay attention more, as opposed to, well, here's Orange and the conglomeration having a good time, and we know he's a great wrestler, and all right, he's in this 6-man, and we're going to, like, there's the Orange Cassidy experience that I do think is an attraction for AEW of getting to be out there for his entrance. He gets a big pop, to get to see the kicks, to get to see the thumbs up, to all of that stuff. And that's Pro Wrestling 101. That's getting Bret Hart sunglasses. That's, being able to be there for Goldberg's entrance. That kind of stuff. The stuff you want to be part of. I want to be there for John Cena's entrance. I want to see him do the towel throw, and I want to throw my hand. Orange Cassidy is I want to be out there for when, Where Is My Mind hits. And I want to hopefully get his glasses, and I want to do this. And when Swerve comes out, I want to do the Nana. It's pro wrestling. And Orange is always going to bring that to the table. But when he dropped it last night and we didn't get that, it made you pay attention more. And it made his words mean more. Because it's not how he typically acts. And he's not going to beat Jon Moxley at Full Gear. Nor should he. But we have a few weeks here to now watch Orange be this version of Orange. And we're going to see how that connects with the crowd. Because his attraction has always been his unique character. We know he can work. We know he picks his spots and all that stuff. How are people going to take to Orange Cassidy in this feud with Moxley? Because he can't be the kicks guy. He can't be the hands, and you can't. And I don't think he will be, and I think we saw that last night. Very little of the typical Orange Cassidy character came through in that promo last night. And to get this angle over to the level they need to get it over, he can't be typical Orange Cassidy. But I also think it's a good examination of what maybe could be the next evolution of Orange Cassidy. With more of an edge, with more of an anger. We'll see. Some people in the chat are saying they don't like it. Dirty Dude saying that. Some people are in wait-and-see mood. I get it. They'll have a good match. It should continue to build more heat. Now, last night, they run this angle where they're going to sacrifice Wheeler Yuta. And he fought it as if he wasn't in on it. And then, of course, nothing happens and Orange saves him. And then he joins in on the beatdown. And now commentary sold it. And once again, commentary should be telling the story that we're supposed to know. They were indicating that, hey, they were willing to sacrifice Yuta. But then, and that might be the case. They get the chair off him when Orange comes out, and Marina slaps him a couple times. And then he goes and starts kicking Orange. And I was wondering, and if this is supposed to be ambiguous, I have no problem with it. Was Wheeler in on it? Or is he low man on the totem pole and he was going to be sacrificed if Orange didn't come out there? Because he got right in there to put the boots to Orange. So is he still kind of earning his stripes? Or was it part of the plan all along? Commentary indicated he was about to be sacrificed. I'd like to know more about that. Because you can only do that once. And it was early enough in Wheeler coming into the group and obviously having a pre-existing relationship with Orange Cassidy that you could believably think that Orange would want to come out to save Wheeler because he got caught up with the wrong people and now his career might end. And it just brought out Orange, lured him out, and he got beat up. Now, it did also lead us to the return of Darby Allin, who did go right for Claudio. And that whole beatdown and everything, and then all the babyface ran out. And I wonder, and I have pitched as such, if Darby Allin is going to take a path of taking everybody out under Moxley before he gets to him. You know, Stone Cold wanted to get back to Bret Hart, but knew he had to go through the Hart Foundation. And that was, a big base of his feud with Owen. Austin went after Bret in 96. And obviously into 97. But then he had to go through Owen and try to get back to Bret and all that stuff. Is that what Darby's going to do? I'll answer this question. Why would Orange save Yuta? They broke up years ago, and now all of a sudden OC saves him. See, I don't think they really broke up. I don't think that's the difference. If there was a angry or turn of a breakup or what, I don't think that was really the case, and that might play back to the fact that the babyface heel dynamic in the BCC switched a lot. So I get that being confusing. But Wheeler has always been treated as the young boy guy of the group who is kind of following orders, and everybody still likes him. So I think there was that element of it. Him and OC never really had a falling out. Maybe there's still hope for Yuta. I can go save him. And not the case. So I still think there was a connection there. Darby being back, you couldn't keep him off TV for that long. I don't think it would have been that believable. But Darby being back, gives everybody else something to do, or gives Claudio something to do. When is this going to break into them having matches? And I don't think there's ever been a rush. I don't need Marina Shafir to have any title matches. I would like there to be more situations where she could go after a woman or women. She's taken out, smaller men, I guess is what they gone with, I think she did it with Top Flight, and I think she did it with like Alex Reynolds, where she's gotten the best of people, and she could do that. I think that's the believable nature of her, but, it would be nice to see her take out some women and be able to show that part of it. City Local Notice, that was more Trent than Orange Cassidy. Yeah, Trent and Yuta. So, I don't know. I didn't have a big problem with it. And once again, I think you can only do it once anyway. You can only cry wolf so many times. The next time they go to threaten Yuta, it wouldn't make sense. They just let it happen, because we saw what happened when he got threatened last night. He got up and started putting the boots to the guy who was helping him. It was the closest thing to Mox's group actually getting one-upped on, because they did kind of have to retreat, although they kind of fought their way out of there. But it's the first reign. It's the first, not first reign. It's the first defense of Moxley. It's got to start somewhere, and that's what we get. Now, later on, Private Party win the AEW Tag Team Championships. If they had lost, we knew they had to break up. They've had the teases with Stokely, trying to acquire their services, and doesn't really have a presence last night, and they win in a very good match. And here you go. Watch the crowd. Listen to the crowd. They were there. They were with it. They were happy for Private Party. It was a good moment. They now have to build on that, and they will have work to do. They are hopefully on the way up. But there is still, even after 5 years, work to be done for them to get over more and hopefully get the crowd behind them more. Whoever beat the Young Bucks it was going to be a big deal, or it should have been a big deal because of what they are and who they represent, whether it be their resumes or their EVP status or whatever, or being able to stack the deck against people because of their power or whatever. Whoever was going to beat them, it should have been a team like a Private Party, a team that needed the win, that was going to elevate them, and it did. And the Bucks kind of had that thing. We're like, all right, fine, you beat us. Okay. And then they do 2 backstage segments that maybe serve their purpose. You got Jungle Boy backstage, Marvez and all that stuff. That happens later on. And then Jungle Boy or Jack Perry, whatever, gets basically confronted by Daniel Garcia, who's like, hey, where the hell were you? You only care about this. I'm coming for this. And Jack Perry gets in his head a little bit, and Garcia just kind of begs off, or not begs off. He's like, fine, all right, whatever, which is kind of a weird ending. And then he goes into the locker room, and they're shredding documents, and they're packing up. And then later on, Marvez catches the Young Bucks as they're leaving, and we can't be anymore. And you see what this place is like. This is not us changing the world. I'm working from home. Slam. Guys, you left me. It's Brandon Cutler being a goof, and they shatter his wrist. So here's what I ask. What's with the shredding documents? Is there something to that, or is that them just being goofy? Like, oh, we're leaving. We got to get rid of this stuff. Or is there something to that? Now, they take out Brandon Cutler, who is not going to get any sympathy from any AEW fan because of him being the lackey of the Elite Young Bucks. Does that bring the Bucks back? Do they care? Because they're clearly trying to keep Moxley's group and the Elite from touching, but they're keeping them in the same orbit in a way. So it brings me back, when I talked about how there's NWO elements to this. And, the babyface has got to band together. And if the company's going to get taken over, maybe those babyface and heel dynamics start to melt away. I think back to Fall Brawl 97, where the Horsemen are going to take out the NWO. They're going to do it. WCW couldn't get their stuff together. Horsemen are going to do it. And Kurt Hennig slams Flair's head in the cage and all that. And the heels, he couldn't even get it together. Are we going to get to that point? Are the Elite going to have to go, hold on, we've had enough. We have to step up and do something. Getting back to Lashley. Will the Hurt Syndicate step to Moxley's group down the road? They're trying to keep the Elite close to it without getting touched. And I think that's important once again because you need to just to establish who Moxley and everybody is. And they've pretty much done that at this point all the way, as much as they can. They've only put baby faces up against them to signify who they are. If you put the Young Bucks in the path of Moxley, I would wonder who would actually get cheered there. Do the Bucks have enough reputation, connection from their entire careers to get cheered once again if you pointed them at Moxley, knowing they've been these annoying EVP heels that have not tried to be likable in the slightest way? I wouldn't be in a rush to put them in front of Moxley and group. I think they got to be talked into it. I think they have to be pushed into it. I don't think Cutler should be the final straw. All right, now we'll get involved. There's got to be more to it. We will see. Adam Cole, Buddy Matthews was solid. Adam Cole, Alistair, Malachi Black is obviously a very good match on paper. A couple of old NXT black and gold guys. I want to know, is this just, what are Adam Cole's 3 wins going to be to get him to MJF? Is it Buddy, Malachi, and Roddy? Does Roddy Cole happen to see who gets to MJF? Because I don't want to see Roddy and Cole at the same side. I think Taven and Bennett and Roddy are better off as heels. And hopefully Kyle can kind of talk Adam into that. And Adam and Roddy happens. And, Adam beats Roddy to get the shot at MJF. I think that makes more sense than them being on the same side. I guess there's a rivalry kind of built in based on the fact that they both want MJF, but Roddy's better as a heel, as is Taven and Bennett with him. But good to see Adam Cole back in the ring. Super over still. Probably still working his way back into shape. Totally understandable considering what he was coming off of. I've said this a lot. I talked about it with injuries. When you're coming back from an injury, your focus, unfortunately, has to be on getting healthy. And then once you are fully healthy, then it's about doing other work on your body or getting all your wind back and it takes time. It just takes time. And I've talked about this a bit recently. And I would, that might need, Cole might need that. He's getting his legs back underneath him. I don't know how much he's been training. I don't know how much work he's put in. Even Excalibur said, hey, he's got new boots. Those take time to work in, depending on how much practice he's done in them. So Cole's got to kind of work his way back into it. Unfortunately, they don't have house shows. Not that you want him to go, balls to the wall and be working all the time, but there's not as many opportunities to work in front of a live crowd for him. So, getting that muscle memory back and developing those calluses and all that, that takes time. And then it's, getting to be where he wants to be in terms of his look, in terms of his feel, in terms of his cardio, all that stuff. It's going to take time. Sydney Local says, I hope Buddy gets an undeniable push like Jamie Hayter did. Crowd was on his side all match. Can't ignore that. Yeah, he has great matches. I think promos have obviously been something where it hasn't been his strongest point. I think he fits okay in the group. But, it's that last step. But I think people like to watch him. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Moving on, not an intentional segue, but let's talk about Rhea Ripley dealing with this orbital bone injury. Was written off a television night, or at least written out of active competition on NXT. Good use of NXT to go, hey, and that's a great example. Great use of NXT to go, hey, there's Rhea Ripley. Oh, she got taken out. She didn't get taken out on Raw. She didn't get taken out on SmackDown. She didn't get taken out at Crown Jewel. Did it NXT. And that adds a level of anything can happen. It adds a level of, Rhea got taken out at NXT and got taken out so bad she's out for some time. You just made NXT matter more right there. Not a she got beat up and she'll see you at Saudi at Crown Jewel on Saturday. No, they ran an important angle on NXT. And they got even more out of it by having her interact with the babyface group and putting her face-to-face with Zarya, which I'm sure will come back down the line. But she got taken out in the parking lot. And it's a meaningful story. So they got something out of Rhea to have her with those baby faces. And then they run the angle to take her out of action. That is maximizing an injured Rhea Ripley who had to take 0 bumps to shoot 2 useful angles. One, as the most popular woman on the roster, most over, one of the most accomplished, to kind of give the rub to those 5 women baby faces who will be in that 10-woman tag match, and you run the angle to write her off of television to further the story of Liv and Dom and Raquel and to promote a little bit towards Liv and Nia at Crown Jewel. Really well done and great use of Rhea Ripley at a time where she's hurt. And best wishes to her. She put up the x-rays on her social media, and it's a bummer because she obviously already missed time this year. Put some heat on it. I will tell you, it put some heat on it. Because I don't know if they had a ton of heat left on it, but it put some heat on Liv and Raquel and Dom, if you will. And, Rhea will have a bigger, more revenge now. She'll be even more justified in her actions. Because now, and I think this is a key, Liv has injured her twice. Rhea took out Liv. Liv took her out after Mania. But now Liv and Raquel have taken her out again. And that puts more heat on them where it should be. I hope she'll be back soon. Hopefully the injury's not too bad. But the fact that we saw her on Tuesday, knowing she already had the injury, is probably a good sign, but it does take time to heal, and you can't be using your head for headbutts or having people throw worked punches at your face or what. You can't. You got to stay out of action, and that does take time to heal. So month or two, I'm not sure, but with an injury like that, maybe she'll put a mask on. I don't know. One of those plastic masks that, guys with broken nose, the NBA have worn or whatever, that Undertaker mask. Maybe they'll do that. We'll see. But I hope Rhea's okay. Tomorrow you will get a Crown Jewel preview from me and any other news that comes down, as we will be heading into a PLE weekend. So make sure you check that out. Head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat. Get your Wrestling Match shirts. We got a variety of shirts available there now. Become a member here at TheWrestlingMatchShow.com. And you, like those in the chat that have been talking to us, Dennis, Nerdy Dude, City and Local, B. May, who are watching live at 11 a.m. Eastern. Members get to do that. Everybody else gets it at 5 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and at TheWrestlingMatchShow.com. But if you want to get it live at 11 a.m. Eastern, you got to be a Matt member. Join down below or head over to TheWrestlingMatchShow.com and find out so much more about being a Matt member. I'll get to this question here before we wrap it up. Nerdy Dude says, Matt, I forgot to ask you, what did you think of Carlito's comments on Raw last week with Io and Kairi? Yes. They are Japanese. He walks by them and says, I got to learn Chinese. It's so lazy. It's not funny. It's weak. If you haven't ever seen Io shut down a fan at Full Sail, I don't want to hear he's a heel. Don't put that stuff. It didn't add to what he was doing. It was cheap. It was lazy. It had there's no feud there. That's not going to turn into something. They seemed pissed. That's it. Staying out of their way. Jesus, they scare the hell out of me. That's all Carlito should be saying. Not that. And if he ad-libbed it or if it was written, no matter what, it sucked. I assume it was done live. Because if that made it through a pre-tape, then it's not just on him. But be better than that. That's trash. But yeah, go buy. Nerdy Dude just brought it up. Go watch. Go look up EO shutting somebody down at Full Sail. That stuff is garbage. I am happy I didn't have to talk about that last week. And I'm answering it here now because it was asked of me. Don't say stuff when you're expendable. How's that? On a lighter note, I'm looking forward to being back tomorrow for the Friday edition. 1st of November, heading into a double PLE pay-per-view month, pay-per-view, PLE, whatever the hell they're called for WWE, heading into Full Gear. And not a downtime in pro wrestling as it tends to be at the end of the year. I think things are going to pick up even more, which is good because I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling Mat. See you then, everybody.